Hi, I'm Carrie, and I am back with another VR response to a hashtag. That's what today's video is. I am doing the hashtag only one deck that was put out by Jay from Iridescent Tarot, and I am going to have their video linked in my description box below. So if you have not seen it, be sure to go check it out. The whole premise of this is one deck. The one deck you are going to have for the rest of your life. If all your other decks were gone and you had to start from scratch and rebuild a collection, or I guess if you only wanted to take one deck with you and get rid of everything else, what were the decks that you were going to choose? And she did not allow any wiggle room, and I don't think they know how much that killed me. Just I can't. I'm a let's collect all the things person. I'm a maximalist here. So I struggled. I have struggled for days to think about the only decks, because you're allowed to choose one tarot and one oracle. And she did say you were allowed to do one runner up for each, but you had to explain why it wasn't chosen as your main deck. So this was difficult. I thought about many different decks in my collection. The very first one that came to mind was the Morgan Greer tarot. If it was the only tarot that I had to look at for the rest of my days, I think the limited color palette on it would eventually get to me. So I decided no, that wasn't going to be in the running. And then I looked at many, many other decks in my collection. And the one that I settled on is this one. This is a mass market deck. This is Influence of the Angels Tarot by Jody Baginski Barbesi and with Karen Baginski. This and my runner-up deck. I did a lot of back and forth between the two. A lot of back and forth between the two before I ultimately settled on this one. These images, I feel, are much more, I don't even know if I want to say this, because I love my runner-up deck. Jay, you're killing me here. This deck, I think, is more rich, I'll say that, in its imagery. And I think I could definitely use this long term forever and continually find or explore something new in the images. So that's really what pushed me towards this one. On top of that, the guidebook has the write up about the card, which explains the imagery. So I can dive into that if I want to, dive into the information about the little angels that are on all the cards. It has the upright meanings, it has the reversed meanings, but then it also carries or has a little section, I should say, of angelic messages. And my roots started in angel energy. That's where I started. That's how this whole thing blossomed into, what it is now. And when I was debating between the two, that's really what swayed me, are those angel messages and leaning back into that energy. And I used to channel that energy. I've done everything you could possibly do with angel energy from way back in the beginning. I worked with it exclusively for a very long time. So this brings me back into my roots. It brings me back into my foundation of my spiritual practice. And yet also leans into where I'm at now in my spiritual practice. And the more complex things that I like to dive into, and being able to sit with these images. I could meditate with these images. I could dive into like what else I'm picking up in these images if this is the only deck I'm ever going to have to or get to read with, from here on out. And so that angelic energy holds such a deep place in my heart, in my practice, that I had to pick this one um, as the deck for the rest of my life. Because, like I said, when I showed the runner up, I thought for sure that it was going to be that one. And these images are beautiful, and like I said, give you a lot to think about in the process of looking at them and reading with them and meditating on them, or whatever it is that you choose to do. I really love this deck wholeheartedly. This, I do not read for anybody else with this deck. I know this is very close to the Golden Tarot and the Touchstone Tarot that I have. I will read for clients with those decks. This one is special just for me. Never done a reading for anybody else with this. So that's another thing that makes it kind of really special and in my collection, and just carries my energy with it. So this is my forever tarot. Oh, this is my forever. Thank God this isn't real life, or I don't know what I do. Okay, so my runner up is the Light Seers Tarot. I just thought for sure this was 100%. This was going to be it. This one was going to be my forever deck. This deck, as soon as it found me, I'll say, because it grabbed a hold of me and never let go. I am still constantly, even with the hundreds in the hundreds of tarot that I have, I still keep this at the front of my cupboard to pull out first. It's just one of those ones I will never let go of. I will never move away from using. The only reason the influence of the angels beat it out was that angelic pull. And the thing about this deck, I love the colors. I love that this is another one I could path work with if I wanted to. And it has the larger guidebook. So if I'm only ever going to have one deck, then at least I have that book to read too. And I could dive into that to learn more about the cards or pull from that or whatever. And I did. I thought for sure this was going to be the one. I just feel like it is one that could carry me through, even with its modern imagery here, that it could still carry me through until I rebuilt a collection, or just carried me through till the end anyway. That's how I feel about this. I had to put myself almost in the mindset of like a zombie apocalypse or something like that to get myself to think about what would I throw in a backpack. And I would definitely throw the tin version of this in a backpack because it's, easier to carry and more sustainable. But in the end, the influence of the angels won out. But I feel like with this one that I still could have sat and talked with these characters and brought something forward. And I think also with this one, I could do it with the influence of the angels also, but this one I could almost put into like a story format if I wanted to entertain me in some way. I was making up so many scenarios in my head when it came to having to decide on only one. And like I said, that's why I thought this one was going to be the, for sure, hands down. But I don't know. Even now looking at this and talking about the influence of the angels being my first one, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh, did you make the right choice? Because I love this one so much. And it's so, it's been a really powerful deck for me. So I still think I'm just going to keep this as my runner-up deck. And oh, okay, I'm just going to keep it as that. I'm going to keep it as my runner-up deck, although it could carry the number one spot very easily, hands down. But to stick with the terms of this hashtag, we're going to stick with Influence of the Angels Tarot being number one. Now, Oracle, that's a whole different story. I own more Oracle than I own tarot. And if I just said a moment ago that I own hundreds of tarot, then I own more than that in Oracle. I have such a love of Oracle decks. And for me, most of them all bring some sort of different energy, vibration, or whatever to a reading. So I was looking and trying to decide which energy would I want to sit in forever for the rest of my days, as far as an oracle goes. And every time I picked one up, I was like, no, not this one, not this one, not this one. So what I ended up settling on, which I couldn't believe that this is the one that I picked. This is independent. This is Gift of Virtue Clarity Deck by Callie Smith, Joshua Keys or Kess. 148 cards. So right there, that kind of sold me. It's 148 cards. It's not a little 44 card deck or a 36 card deck, or I can't even think of what the biggest oracle is that I have, maybe 60. This is 148. This is like almost triple some of those ones that I have. So that really is what pulled me to this deck. So in case you've never seen this, although I've shown this on my channel before, it says the Gift of Virtue is an inspirational collection of values from around the world. So the thing about these cards is, first of all, they're very colorful. So if I wanted to bring in a color energy, I could do that also. And these are going to be every which way here. But you've got the key concept of the card, receptivity. Who talks little hears better. And then you have some like action down here, willingness to receive new suggestions or ideas, listening to input. And then you have the two zodiac signs that are both sides of this energy, which is Aquarius, and I believe that's the Leo sign. These signs are very, very small. So like Jay said in her video, she chose a spread deck. And I like that idea because she used it as a spread deck, or you could use it as a regular oracle. And that's kind of what I feel with this one also. So I've got the vast amount of cards here, 148. And then if I wanted to, I could shuffle and pull cards as a spread and then go to my angel deck to, get the action or dive further into that if I wanted to. I could also use the little messages on here, take the path less traveled, as almost a mantra for the day. And I could use it as an affirmation if I wanted to, instead of leaning into the word adventure. Maybe, I know it means the same thing, but take the path less traveled. Formality, civility costs nothing, but it's worth everything. I could use these as like a mantra deck. I don't know. I just felt that it was the most versatile that wasn't stuck like in a system, that wasn't locked into a specific way you needed to use it. It wasn't locked into any of that. So therefore, it made this deck, like I said a moment ago, very versatile, where I could do anything I wanted to with it. So that's why I picked this one. A ton of cards, beautiful colors. If I wanted to lean into the astrological signs here, I could, but you know, I don't have to. I can't remember what all the signs are anyway. So I would have to have a cheat code written on the inside of my box of what each one. This is Pisces, I think, and Cancer. But yeah, so I thought this would be a really good one. And did I say I found this on Etsy? Because that's where I found it. I don't even know if this deck is still available, but they also have a website, elementalconflicts.com/virtues. So if it's something that interests you. But yeah, I found it on Etsy, and it was very reasonably priced for the amount of cards that is in this deck. And I'm really glad I picked it up, because I use it a lot and a lot. I may not show it here on my channel, but I use this deck a lot of different ways. Okay, my runner-up deck is the Citadel Oracle. This is Mass Market by Fez Ink, right? I'm pretty sure you can still get this. I don't know, honestly. So this one I thought was cool because I know it's like an archetype. However, the basic coloring, or color palette, I should say, is appealing. Black, white, red, gold. I'm here for that. I'm all for this color palette. So I would not get overwhelmed, I think, or bored with this because of that. And I could lean into like the archetype here on the card, or I could lean into the keywords on the card if I wanted to. And another thing about this is it talks a little bit in the guidebook. I could turn this into a game if I wanted to turn it into a game. The only reason, the absolute only reason that this did not make it into number one is because the other one had more cards. And I just felt there was a little bit more that I could do with the other deck. That's the only reason, because I had pulled this out first as my first choice. And as I continued looking in my cupboard, that's when I saw the Gifts of Virtue, and I was like, oh no, it's going to be this one. This is a nice size. This already has 60 cards in it, but this doubles that. So it was a really hard choice between the two. This has been one of my favorites ever since I got it. There is a reading I created from this deck on my channel. I think it's in my playlist of Let's Read Tarot. And I created a whole entire spread reading that you could do with this deck, pulling in the elements, because this deck dives into the elemental energy also. So I could pull that forward in a reading. I could even use this as a spread deck if I wanted to. So it has almost the same versatility as the Gift of Virtue deck does. But yeah, ultimately it was the card size for the other deck. That's the only reason. I like that you can do a game with this if you wanted to do that. There's, I think, all kinds of different ways that you could use this deck. I almost wish I had a backup copy of it. I love it so much. And like I said, I don't know if it's in print anymore. But yeah, this was my runner-up. It really was in the number one spot, just like the Light Seers was. The Light Seers was in the number one spot also. until I did a little bit more digging and looking through my collection, and you're talking hundreds of decks, so that was a lot. So I really kind of just went with the decks that I'm using consistently over the past several years. I did not dig decks out of baskets or from under my bed or anything. I just looked at the ones that have been a staple in my collection consistently. So those were the ones that I chose. So tell me, what did you think of these choices? And Jay, this VR, I'm going to just tell you, it killed me to do this VR, but it really pushed me. It really pushed me to think about my decks a little bit. So what did you think of these choices? Would you have put these choices just from these four that I chose in a different order? See, I think the Citadel looks better with the influence of the angels, and I think the Gift of Virtue looks better with the Light Seers Tarot. So, but yeah, that's not how it ended up. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate you being here. And thanks so much to Jay over at Iridescent Tarot for creating this tag that was brutal. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Be sure to check out their video. It is listed in my description box below. And be sure to participate in the tag if you so choose to. So until I see you next time, bye.